Mr. Clegg, a big day today, but has the government lost control over this issue?
What is at stake here is how do we as a country, as a nation and as an international community act in the face of what was a crime against humanity, a war crime which took place a week ago in Damascus, unprecedented use of chemical weapons by a brutal ruler against his own people. Do we, in a sense, walk the other side of the road, ignore it, shrug our shoulders and therefore send out a signal that chemical weapons will be used with impunity by him and by others in the future? Or do we try and work with President Obama, with the French, with other members of the international community to do something about it? That in a nutshell is what this is all about. It's not about Iraq, it's not 2003, it's not about boots on the ground, it's not about regime change, it's not even about trying to settle this bloody and awful civil war in Syria. It is simply about intervening on humanitarian grounds to deter the use of chemical weapons. Again, I don't want to be part of a generation of politicians who, when faced by this terrible threat, in effect shrugged our shoulders and said we couldn't do anything about it. I want to live in a world, I want my children, everybody's children, to live in a world where the use of chemical weapons remains utterly unacceptable.
The public might be a little confused. There seems to be a big rush, there seems to be big momentum moving towards the weekend that could have involved British involvement. Why that rush in the first place?
I think there was a strong feeling, there is a strong feeling from the US administration and from others that in order to send a signal of deterrence, that if you use chemical weapons, if President Assad used chemical weapons, there will be repercussions. You have to have a link between, if you like, the moment at which the offence is committed and the reaction to it. That is why there is a sense of urgency. But of course we need to go through all the right steps. That's why we are recalling Parliament. We're having a vote today. We've said there'll be a second vote if there's any British direct involvement in a military action. It is why we put forward a resolution in the United Nations, why we've said that we should hear the early findings from the UN weapons inspectors. All of those steps, of course, must take place, but we must not lose sight of the fundamental choice that needs to be made. Do we do nothing, in effect stand idly by while people use chemical weapons, or do we try and do something about it to stop chemical weapons being used again in the future?